We're very fortunate to have this morning as our speaker. And Dr. Akahosi is certainly no guest to us. He has been a long time participant in the activities of our Sangha, has been a contributor to the education of many of our members, certainly with the classes that he has conducted and organized, the retreats that he has conducted. I mentioned that the Dharma School service, one of the first programs that I was involved in was the Nembutsu Journey program that Dr. Akahosi had organized for our seniors, graduating seniors, many years ago. And in this Nembutsu Journey, they met for regularly over a period of time, and he led discussions about life issues and choices. And this, at the end of this program, they went on a wilderness camp in the Ventana wilderness, and they stayed there for a couple of nights, and they were spread out along a trail, so they were individually on their own, and not to have contact with the other participants during this time. And so they were given the time and opportunity to think deeply about what had been discussed with Dr. Akahosi, what they'd learned in our temple, and to think about the choices that they would be facing in the years to come. Certainly a very important program for our young people. There's been many, many programs that Dr. Akahosi has organized or participated in, and you see a list of some of the things that he's been involved in on the back of your printed program. We're very fortunate, again, to have with us this morning Dr. Kenji Akahosi, who will speak to us on during today's Earth Day service. Dr. Akahosi.
Good morning. I'd first like to thank the Eco Sangha group for inviting me to be their speaker. And I did travel from my home a good distance on my bicycle. It's Earth Day. Today is Earth Day, and we'll be talking about ecology. I also note that it's April 1st, April Fool's Day, and the significance is not lost on me. I first want to start by thanking the San Jose Sangha for all the things you've done to allow me to be here to speak to you from this podium on this 19th. Many of you have congratulated me when I graduated IBS almost 2 years ago, and when I got my Tokudo about 1.5 years ago. And I probably answered with thank you, kind of taking all the credit for doing these things. What I should have done was thanked you in a Buddhist manner, and that is by saying okage-sama de. Translating means, due to all the causes and conditions, and especially to you, I was able to do this to be here today. Now, I did learn at IBS all the traditions and the history and the doctrine of Shin Buddhism. But it was actually here, being in a living Shin community, that I learned the value of being a Shin Buddhist. And so it's really all of you who enabled me to be here today and to share the Dharma that I've learned. Some of you have asked me what you should call me now, and you've known me a long time. So I think it's fine to, I do respond to Kenny. And if you want to be formal, you could say Kenny Sensei. The talk today is really about ecology. And what that's about is the study of an organism in its environment. And fittingly, this is what Buddhism is about. The interdependence, the connections of all things. Everything is connected. And so it's very fitting that we can talk about ecology and Buddhism, which share certain principles. And so that's what we'll be looking at. And especially the one principle of the Nembutsu. But initially, Buddhism has really influenced the culture and language of Japan, very much so. And so what we see in the culture is important principles and values of especially Shin Buddhism. Now this term okage-sama de is a very common daily use, as many of you know. When people greet each other every day, we may say, how are you? And our response in America is, I am fine, again, taking all the credit. But in the Japanese language, it's ikaga desu ka? How are you? The answer is usually okage-sama de. Under the shade of all the benefits, because of you and all the things, I am fine. So on a daily basis, people are constantly reminded of this interconnection and this thought that, we're deeply dependent on each other and influence each other's lives. And this affects us all the time. So again, just in daily use, this thought pervades our thinking and who we are. Now, there's another word, because language, really, the meaning of words depend on our experience of it. Now, we've just observed the 1-year anniversary or memorial of the Japan tidal wave. Now, have you heard tidal wave? Not very much. The word that's used is tsunami. And I think it's because in America, tidal wave might mean that, every decade or so, a big wave comes by and wrecks a bunch of boats in the Santa Cruz or harbor up in the Oregon coast. And so our experience of that word is not very profound. But Japan has so many tsunamis over many centuries that it carries that experience of devastation and loss and all the things that come with that type of event. And so now the word tsunami is used worldwide to describe this event, where the English word just may not suffice. And then there's another word that's coming into use globally, and that deals with the ecology movement, and the word is mottainai. There was a professor, Wagari Maathai, who was from Kenya, who won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2004, who was the environmental and natural resource director in Kenya. And she visited Japan and was very impressed with this word mottainai, because she felt that it contained all the things of the ecology movement, which was reduce, reuse, and recycle. And she felt that this word had an extra thing, and it was that there was a sense of respect. And so she founded the mottainai campaign worldwide, so now that word is being used, just like tsunami. And for us, mottainai, for a lot of us, we understand that to be, don't be wasteful. But again, in English and in our experience, don't be wasteful just has this superficial kind of meaning. Mottainai has a different context, a different experience to it. And there's a sense of value in everything we do, and so things can become sacred. And so every little thing is valuable. And that may be why in many households people are storing things. And our grandparents and parents, you probably wondered if they were borderline hoarders, worried that, the TV cameras might come in. But again, everything is valuable. So this, again, this Japanese mottainai carries a sense of value in things. Now, these everyday words provide us with an experience that can actually bring the spiritual into everyday life, this connection with each other, the sense of value in everything that we use. The other word, of course, is Namo Amida Butsu, what we call Nembutsu. Now, as I say, I lead retreats and discussions, and I found that the one question that seems to come up is, what is Shin Buddhism really about? And sometimes it's not asked, but it's what is this Namo Amida Butsu? And, people are trying to get a sense of that. So I want to talk about Nembutsu in the context of ecology, because of the two areas that they're very similar, and that is that everything is connected, and also the sense of gratitude when we realize that everything is connected. Now, the heart of Shin Buddhism is this Nembutsu, Namo Amida Butsu. And yet, for many of us, especially those of us who are new to it, there's not this experience behind it. And so some people may think it's a ritual, just from an old mythology. And so the words are just said all the time. We say it all the time here at the temple, but without that experience. But then we need to consider that Shin Buddhism has been around for 800 years. And so there must be something very powerful within the context of these words that has not only survived, but has influenced generations and actually centuries of people, probably millions of people. So there's something really contained within the experience of these words. Now, chapter 10 of Tanisho, and this was written by a follower of Shinran, the founder of Shin Buddhism. Very short chapter, and it explains Tanisho. And in it, Yuan says that the Master Shinran said, Nembutsu is no self-working, is true working. It is indescribable, inexplicable, and inconceivable. So it's a little hard to describe the indescribable, explain the inexplicable, and have you get the concept of the inconceivable. So again, I think that having some experience of this is what might be helpful. And by this, by having an experience, this is what I mean. What is that? Balance, and what does that mean? Okay, things are equal, equilibrium. Got to figure out what equilibrium means. Okay, well, here's what the word might mean. Okay, do we get that? Okay. I'd like you to do something. Could you all stand up just a bit, if everyone could stand up. Now, very carefully, and do so, at your own level. Raise up one leg. Now, do you have an experience of balance? Okay, please sit down. So again, that's an experience, and it goes along with the word or a description. And so again, I feel that the experience is very important in really understanding what some of these words mean. Each of us had a different sense of what this balance was about. Now, if we could have an experience of Nembutsu, it's to become aware of the compassion of Amida Buddha that affects our lives always. And yet, again, those are words, and what does that really mean? With the heart of Shin Buddhism being this, it's very significant and important that we know. Well, one thing I've been doing in our classes is using this little device, and I'd like to explain that to you here. And that is, in our ordinary life, the way we usually go about things is that it's egocentric. We're thinking mainly of ourselves. And so I like to say that our ordinary lives are like please, P-L-E-A-S-E. We're saying please, we want things to turn out the way it would help us. It's all centered on me. And so we go along not being real happy with how things might turn out, that it could be better. So it's always please, thinking of something other than what it is. And this is kind of the American way of life. When we think of please or the ego, it's that we're thinking of ourselves. Now this is very important because as little infants and little children, as we grow, it's very important to develop an ego. If you don't have an ego, there's no sense of who we are. And so it's not losing the ego, but we talk as adults as transcending the ego. That means going beyond the little self. The description I always use is either Gandhi or Martin Luther King. These were not men with no egos. They knew who they were, but they transcended the small self and included their broader self. With Gandhi, it was all of India. With Martin Luther King, his self included all suppressed peoples. So again, this sense of ego is important to have. And yet, part of this is the balance, is that much of our life is still about me, and there's very little balance about that. And if we look at our lives in the last 50 years especially, we've led a very comfortable life. We drive cars to go anywhere. And if you think about shopping, we have clothes and food, fruits from all parts of the world, any time of the year. and at a relatively cheap cost. So we're eating meats and fishes and all these things. We use things once, we throw it away, usually with its wrappers and all of that. And so we go along just saying, please, I'd like things to be more convenient, and just go on, please, please, please. We also don't want to know where our waste products go. So again, we just see it from one point of view. And so in the last 100 years, and especially the last 50 years, we've burned coal and oil, and now we're worried that we're going to run out. We've depleted forests, even farmlands, polluted rivers. All these things have occurred, and we're aware of that. The air. And we're learning that there is a limit to these things. Birds and animals have gone extinct. Now, if you remember the movie The Graduate in the 1960s, only 50 years ago, this is a movie with Dustin Hoffman. And in it, at the graduation party, a friend of his father goes up to him and gives him some advice, and he's thinking about the future. And he says, Benjamin, I want you to know one thing, plastic. So in about the 1960s, plastic was the way of the future. So here it is, only 50 years later. What does the word plastic mean to us? Something that's indestructible, that pollutes our oceans, something that creates gyres. And this word gyre is something you could learn about when you go to the gymnasium. So again, we're unbalanced, and we need to seek something that helps us balance. And so we need to shift our thinking from please. And what I suggest is that we shift it, but to realize that this mind of please is what we call the monku mind. This is the mind that complains. Not monkey mind. Monku in Japanese is to complain. We know other people who always monku, right? Always complaining. We just give advice and our opinions, but other people monku. Other people complain. And we're not quite satisfied. And so there needs to be a shift, a whole shift in consciousness. And this is a big thing. But this is how a Buddhist may see it. And from the Buddhist perspective, it's Namo Amida Butsu. Now, this is not a petition or a prayer. Often it's mistaken because it sounds like a mantra, Namo Amida Butsu, right? I guess you don't pull levers on machines anymore, you push buttons. Okay. But anyway, sometimes it's thought of in that sense. But what Namo Amida Butsu, or Nembutsu, is an expression of gratitude. It's thank you. So making the shift from please to thank you is a paradigm shift. It's a big, different way of being, different way of living. And yet this is how we Shin Buddhists live. And this is why it may be so difficult to understand, because we are so much naturally in our own self and thinking of what is best for us. And we often think that if we hear the right thing, we'll be with the great majority, or what is ultimately right. In Buddhist thought, ultimate right is a balance. It's all things. And there's no one perspective that says this is right. And so for us, just in the practical sense, it's about learning to say thank you for things that we have, and not looking for something else. So when do we say thank you? We say thank you when we know we received the gift, when we're aware that we have gotten something of value. And this practice of saying thank you may be a little unusual for us. But by doing so, our whole perspective of life changes. Now, it may seem very simplistic, but I know it works because there are those who are new to some of the classes I do, and they seem to get this after a couple of times. And some of you out there, I was going to say elders, but many people out there really have this thought naturally. This sense of gratitude in our whole lives, so much so that we don't even know it. But for those of us who are new to Shin Buddhism, it's nice to have something to tie an experience of Nembutsu to. And the way we do this is a practice. And again, practice sounds like it's trying to achieve something, and we do have practices like chanting and meditation. But Shinran says these are secondary practices. And the primary practice is reciting Namo Amida Butsu. But the difference here is the intent. Again, it's not a plea, a please. It's an expression of gratitude or thank you. So that's nice, but how's that done? Honen, Shinnan's teacher, was said to have said it 70,000 times a day, continually saying Namandavs, Namandavs, Namandavs. So that's something we could do. But I think what this involves is selective seeing or hearing. Now, I might best explain it this way. I'm going to tell you a fairy tale about a family of 4 taking a walk around the block. It's a fairy tale because families don't walk anymore. They get in the car. They go to the mall. So the father, as they're walking down their neighborhood, the father sees the bushes on some yards that aren't kept up very well. And then he sees a broken rain gutter. And the mother notices some porches, and there's some nice chairs and decorations on doors. And then the teenage son notices that some of the driveways have basketball courts. And he notices a sports car. And the little girl walking with them sees a little cat, and she hears birds chirping. Now they're all walking together, but the mother doesn't see the rain gutter that's broken. The father doesn't notice the decorations on the door. The son doesn't see the cat, and the little girl doesn't see the sports car. But they're all there. That's selective seeing and hearing because of their interest. And that's how we live life. We kind of see things that we're aware of, and we miss many other things. And so it depends on our selective seeing and how we can see these things. Now, Saiichi was a myokunin, and a myokunin is a person who is a devout Shin follower, often uneducated, but very devout. And Saiichi says, someone says, "Oh, Saiichi, where's the land of bliss?" Saiichi says, "My land of bliss is right here." "Where is the line of division?" "My eyes are the line of division." So again, it's just how we perceive things that determine how we live our life and how we see things. And so it is just a practice. And again, it's not a practice to achieve anything, but just to say that we're aware and we're grateful. And it is something that I think we can all develop. To give you an idea, my grandmother was known to be a very devout Buddhist. And if you can imagine that we go over their place, I can remember this one time, we're all sitting down to dinner, Bachan and Uncle and Auntie and everyone. We're all ready to eat, itadakimasu. And then we notice that there's no shoyu or soy sauce on the table. So everyone's looking around. Instantly, my grandmother gets up and says, "Are bai? Oh, what good fortune. I can get some exercise. I'll get the soy sauce." And so you see, she naturally had this selective seeing of being grateful for taking this opportunity where the rest of us were saying, "Please." So it's something that could be developed. Now, how do we do it? We might go out and say, "Oh, I'm inspired. I'll just, say thank you all the time." There is a way, and it comes from Shin Buddhism, called Kaizen, the Kaizen method. And that is, instead of saying, "I'm going to meditate for an hour next week," or exercise, you just do one thing. So once a day, think about one thing you could be grateful for. Just one thing. And once that becomes a habit, once a day, think of 2 things you might be grateful for every day. And do that until that becomes a habit. And then 3 things. So this is the way we incorporate something within our lives as a habit. And the same thing with ecology. There's a lot that can be done. But once a day, think of something that you could reduce, or reuse, or recycle. Just one thing. And when that becomes a habit, think of 2 things that you can think of to reduce, reuse, or recycle. So saying thank you, and also looking at the environment and thinking of these habits are ways we incorporate some things that may not be in our lives now, but will be. Okay, I think I'll do this real quick thing. I'm running a little long, but you may not all have money, but take out a quarter, a coin, and we'll try and do this real fast. We don't want to flip it because you'll probably lose it, but just kind of shake it. And if you don't have a coin, maybe 2 or 3 of you could do it together. Okay, just kind of shake it. Okay, and then what you do is you call it, and I call heads, and it's heads. Okay, 1 out of 1. Just keep and do it 10 times. Okay, just shake it, and then I call tails, 2 out of 2. So just keep going until you do it 10 times, okay? That's okay. Oh, on the 3, okay? 4, keep going. Call heads or tails, see what you get. Tails, 3 out of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Everyone almost finished? Okay. Now, or you can just use someone else. Okay. Who has 1 out of 10 right? 2 out of 10? Good group. 3 out of 10? Okay. 4 out of 10 right? Good. 5 out of 10? 6? Gee, this is, okay. 7 out of 10? Oh, better buy a lotto ticket. 8 out of 10? 9 out of 10? Anyone get 10 out of 10? Okay, we're going to do this again. It's a little different. Shake it, okay? Open it, see what you have. I have heads, so I call heads. 1 out of 1. Just do that 10 times. Okay? It's heads again, I call heads. 2 out of 2. Just do that 10 times. It's tails, I call tails. 3 out of 3. Okay? Heads, 4. Well, 5 out of 5. Call it. I see heads, I call heads. 6, 7, 8. Wow. 10. How many got 10 out of 10 that time? Okay, I should ask, how many didn't get 10 out of 10? Yeah, that's something to worry about. Now, that's how we live our life, isn't it? The first way is please. Something comes out and it's not what we wanted. But the second time, what happened? We saw what we got and we chose that. We got it 10 out of 10. That's thank you. So which way do you want to live your life? Please or thank you? The thing that we miss is that what this is about is being thankful for being able to play the game. And that's where Nembutsu becomes much more than thank you. It's a very deep level. Because what our parents and grandparents wanted for us is the same thing that we want for our grandchildren, children and grandchildren. Note to my sons, we want grandchildren. Please. So, and so if you compare our lives materially with right after World War II, 1945, do we have more than those right after World War II in 1945? Or do we have more materially than our immigrant grandparents may have had, the turn of the century? We have much more. And yet, throughout history, we have, much more comfortable, and yet they had something that was of value, richness, and that was the relationship with each other. So again, we read the 3 treasures, and we may be missing the most important point, and that is, rare is it to be born into human life. Now we are living it. Even more rare is it to hear the teachings of the Buddha. Now we hear it. When will we realize this unique and wonderful gift of life and express our joy? So I'll just finish with this diagram that may explain things. We're right here, right now. And the way we usually live our lives is looking for the future, thinking that if we do things right, nice things will happen. If we don't do it quite right, bad things will happen. So this is the life of please. As Shin Buddhists, we're right here now. We're present right now. But what we look at as we reflect back is how we got here. And we got here through the causes and conditions of all people and things that have enabled us to be here right now. And so the actions we take are not for future gain, but it's in appreciation for everything that's happened before to get us here. So that's the world of thank you. So this is how we live our lives. And you can think about tossing that coin and whether we want to live our lives, which choice we have. And we can do this with just small increments. As I said, just one thing at a time. Now the other thing is to realize that we're not going to do this all the time. We're going to forget. And the beauty of Shin Buddhism is that we have a symbol an understanding, the truth that says even when we forget, when we're not aware, there is this concept of Amida Buddha, all accepting, all compassionate, just accepting us just as we are. And so we're reminded of this, and it's when we don't remember that this compassion still supports us. Just like the earth and ecology and the environment supports us whether we're aware of it or not. Everything has supported us whether we're aware of it or not. And we have this sense of what we call Amida's compassion that has supported us all our lives. And so, again, the question I have is, how did we get here? How did we get here today? And for me, I could tell you, I got here on my bicycle. And for you, maybe you got here on your car. But what I could also say is the reason I'm here today is because Mitz Endo and Kei Endo Masatani gave Reiko and me a ride to Dharma school, probably in 1947 or 48. And I'm here today standing because Fei Nakanishi gave Tetsuhojo and me a ride to the Pacific Seminar at Asilomar when we were in high school. And we were able to hear people like Reverend Tsuji and Reverend Taitetsu Uno. And this is why I say all of you have had an impact on my life to allow me to be here today. And all of you can be aware of all the causes and conditions that have affected you to be here today. And so we have this choice on how we see life. And so finally, in our final days, we have a choice. Will we be saying, please, one more day, please, one more month, please, one more year? Or will we be able to say, thank you. Thank you for this last year. Thank you for this last month. Thank you for this last day. Thank you. Namo Amida Butsu.